you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all. We're going to continue our conversation on systems and leverage. We have many kinds of systems, which we had a working definition for. A working definition for systems being structures and mechanisms that are set in order to achieve certain outcomes. So you have outcomes, let's say economic outcomes. Maybe it may be free trade, it may be egalitarianism. And then you have systems such as capitalism, free trade agreements, so on and so forth. These systems tend to have institutions associated with them. We have legal systems, we have political systems, we have systems of social pressures, we have systems of selective pressures. The ecosystem is a such system of selective pressures designed, if you will, to produce certain outcomes. And in our conversation, we are talking about how one leverages the system, how one uses the system such that it serves our ends, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to go from a high level as to how did we get here? How did we get here? This show is called Getting Ish Done, after all, with Ike and Dr. Thunder. How are you doing, Dr. Thunder?
I'm all right, man. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise. Getting ish done. In order to get ish done, you're going to need to interface with people. You're going to need to negotiate with people. You're going to need to face objections, rejections, and so on and so forth. One of the key aspects of negotiating properly is using leverage. Hence, we got a few weeks or over a month ago into this conversation about leverage. And as we went into leveraging systems after talking about how you use your interpersonal skills such that you're getting the best bang out of your buck in order, when it comes to negotiating and so on and so forth, knowing what people want, giving them what they want, such that you get what you want. And then we talked about different systems, such as economic systems and even systems of law. I asked Dr. Thunder point blank, well, have you, Dr. Thunder, benefited from affirmative action? And are you against that kind of a system that is set up for a particular outcome? You said you don't care. You're going to go ahead and use whatever system that is there to benefit you, benefit the cohort that you are representing. Is that not? I mean, we talked about the fact that systems, the matrix, institutions, the man, right, has a negative connotation. However, it is true that we cannot exist without systems. Is that not correct?
Yeah, what is the saying? If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you have to leverage the system. Well, I sort of modified that a bit, but that is how it works. You have to understand the system, whatever system we're talking about, whatever hierarchy we're talking about, and you have to understand how you can provide something unique, something that is necessary to the function of the system. That's
Mm-hmm.
how that's how you elevate, and by making yourself indispensable, that's how you create job security
Mm-hmm.
within whatever the system is.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can be replaced, then you can be replaced. And so it's all about figuring out where that sweet spot is.
Exactly. And there was something which I think that is worth reiterating from our past conversation, continuing on this idea of the system having a negative connotation. And
Mm,
the negative connotation varies from community to community. There's some communities that for which the system is more or less a very bad word, right? And yeah, there's nothing that could come out of the system, the institution, corporate America, for example, if for one such system, right? It's always the boogeyman, the boogeyman, the boogeyman. And just to
no,
start over here, and I'll throw the ball over to you. We talked about this last time, but to reiterate, number one, there is no such thing as a goal without a system. The goal can be emotional, but the system takes into account the reality of the medium. Let's say the medium are human beings and social structures or a road system, whatever it may be. Whatever you may want, freeways in the sky made of maple syrup, right? But you're gonna need to come to terms with reality at some point. So systems are always a few steps removed from the goals that they're set up to instantiate. And I think that this is something that people tend not to understand because they're always thinking, well, but the goal is utopia. Where is my utopia? Well, it tends to be that the further you try to institute a system that gets to utopia, the further away from utopia you actually end up
Oh yeah.
instantiating. And then secondly, and I'll toss it over to you, is that the system is this repository, if you will, of all kinds of misplaced hopes and expectations and disappointments. Well, the system didn't come through for me. The system has not served us well, on and on and on and on. There's a misplaced hope in terms of thinking that the system can deliver on things that it cannot deliver, and hence all this negative connotation. I don't know. What do you want to say or reiterate regarding that point?
Well, to maybe double down on the point, I mean, you have this. I mean, we were talking about affirmative action,
Mm-hmm.
and that's certainly a system that has not accomplished what its stated goal was. You know, what got it enshrined in law, you know, the sort of reason it was passed, that people signed on the dotted line, was specific wrongs done to, in particular ADOS people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we find that the folks that benefited the most from it were white women. So, as an example of the system not working and not coming through, I don't know that means that you need to throw all systems out. Maybe you can make some improvements to the system. And of course, the problem with making improvements to the system, at least in our form of government, is that's more it's more policy. You know, it's more laws being
More
put in
systems.
place, more systems. That's right. And I think at some point, sometimes it is useful to simplify systems. If you see that something is too complex, and then therefore the tendency for corruption is ever present, then is it possible to simplify the system? You know, usually that's not what happens, though. Especially when certain types are in office, they tend to always say, "We need more. We need more. You didn't let us do it the way we wanted to do it. You didn't give us enough time. You didn't give us enough money."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it tends to be like you mentioned, improving the system, simplifying the system. It tends to be that things tend to be more cyclical. Now, if we just look at the history, right?
Right.
Things, the system is always moving more and more towards corruption over complexity, serving entrenched interests, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. And rather than think of, well, we're going to improve it, it's more of a, well, we're just trying to maintain and reset it, right? Foolhardy ideas of trying to improve and improve tends to just push things further towards more and more complexity, more and more towards an envisioned utopia, whereby and the things just ends up collapsing, and then it starts from fresh again, where it's just pure barbarism, right? Or typically, if we're talking about it in terms of societies, it tends to be the case that that's when you get conquered, the empire fails, new fresh blood comes in with a much more simple system of just survival of the fittest, right?
Right. Right.
And you reset that way. Okay, so I think that that is a good kind of recap. Shout out to Greg. Shout out to Greg O, if you don't mind, Dr. Thunder reading and giving Greg a
Congratulations. Thank you.
I didn't hear a sound effect if you played it, or maybe is it that can just be me. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
DeMarco.
All right. So, if I may, let me show my appreciation. Thank you.
Yes,
And
you
we
may.
are
Yes, you
showing our
may.
appreciation to you. Thank you.
Your appreciation is greatly appreciated here, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, people are commenting on the fire. Yes, yes, yes. I that is the point. That is the point, lady.
I think this is going to become like an inside joke.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind of
taking on a
funny
life
how
of its own.
it's the yes. I think it's funny how people very much see a fire and immediately go to the whole house is going to burn down. It's like my house is
Right,
not
right.
made of kerosene bricks. You know, like it's it's not just that's not just how it doesn't just go whoa all of us. It's like no, even if something you gotta allow for a little bit of chaos, on the edges,
That's right.
to keep things going. So, Dr. Thunder, okay, we ended last time on the end of on political systems, and if you recall, we were talking about the efficacy of going into electoral politics, petitioning your elected official, and so on and so forth. I don't know if you had anything I mean, you're smiling over. I don't know if you had anything to add on what maybe something came up. You're like, I should have said that from last time. But you said that go ahead, write a letter, give them the letter, find out from that there's an app, right? Perhaps remind the people of the app. Again,
Right.
ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about systems and how to leverage systems. The systems are not going away. Economic systems, social system, political systems, so on and so forth, financial systems. They're not going away. You need to learn how to work the system, as it says right above us. So you mentioned the app regarding political systems in order to petition your electoral officials, your elected officials, and so on and so forth. If you're
Yep.
into that thing, if you're into that bag, or if you're a nihilist and you don't believe in that kind of stuff, that's fine too. You work with other systems. But any comments?
I'm for whatever people are for. You know,
That's okay. Like, go on.
with respect to if they want to vote, if they don't want to vote, if they're
Mhm,
for Republicans, Democrats, libertarians, whoever they're for, that's fine. Um, but no change will be made unless um, unless you get in touch with your representative. And there's lots of ways to do that. Voting is maybe the most inefficient way to actually make some change, especially if you're trying to get some change to happen quickly.
mm,
Because so if you figure, okay, you wait for an election season, okay, now you vote, and then now there's you know what 3 years or something before you see whatever the policy that you were passionate about that caused you to go vote for whatever candidate before that even starts to do anything, if it's even going to happen. Because usually the case is they make a lot of promises, and then when they consult the folks that
mhm,
their feet are on the ground and they actually understand how government works, um, and how the logistics work, they'll tell the the person that was running for office, so congratulations, rousing speeches, glad that you got in office. We can't do any of that stuff that you just said. So, you know, but if you uh, stay in touch with your representative, your senator, your um, your representative, you know, and even folks in local politics, and they know who you are. You've been in touch with them, in contact with them frequently.
mhm,
That's a much more direct way to actually see some change. And actually, local politics always is the more direct approach to getting something that you need. I mean, and that can start with like stuff like school board, getting involved in your school board. Um, you can have a pretty profound effect on your school district if you get involved, and that's a pretty important thing. Often is the case that we tend to the things that are out there. That's the stuff that's really powerful. That's the stuff that really is going to matter. The stuff
mhm,
that's closer to me. That's not the that stuff doesn't really matter as much. And I'd say that that's not true. Um,
mhm,
First of
mhm,
all, you can't even touch the stuff that's far from you. All you can
mhm,
do is touch the stuff that's close to you.
mhm,
And secondly, touching the stuff that's close to you and actually making a change is going to change your perspective on everything. On
mhm.
so yeah,
Wow,
but yeah,
that's interesting.
there are apps. There's you can go on Google Play Store. You can go on the Apple the App Store, and they're free apps. that have all of your local politicians, your national politicians, everybody is on there. Phone numbers, email addresses, addresses, of their offices. So if you want to mail them a letter, if that's your thing, but email and probably making a phone call is probably the most efficient way. And most of them have some sort of text option where you can just from your phone you can send a text message, and all that stuff gets there. So you just have to be persistent.
You got to be persistent. People are agreeing with you here, talking about lobbying of your representative. Even if what you're trying to do is get rid of lobbying, I think we kind of touched that. You may need to lobby in order to do that. Now, that local thing, perhaps it bears dwelling upon for a second or two. It is obvious that the local is where you get the most feedback, right? It's where you have the most skin in the game. It's where the reality is, right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what Joe Biden may or may not do. It tends not to affect your life at all, but the local dog catcher may affect your life more, way more than
A
that.
lot more.
And I think, and let me just get your thought on this, beyond the fact that I think it's a distraction, quite frankly, in terms of I think people know, okay, that it's the local area where the work needs to be done. It's the local area where, like you mentioned, more direct, hence quicker, more effective, more of that feedback loop. Hence, things tend to reflect the values, if you will, of the local community, right? However,
Mhm.
people rather not do things, okay? People rather pretend to do things. So people get riled up every 4 years talking about who's in the White House, right? And again, I'm talking about people who participate in this political thing. I'm not saying everybody should, but I'm saying that if you find yourself getting riled up every 4 years, you should notice that this is a human tendency of ours, anyways, to keep things that are difficult far away so we don't actually have to do anything. So we can pay lip service. We even have a simple phrase for it, right? We want to pay lip
Sure.
service to things because we don't want to do the real work, as is over here by it says blind guy, his wife, their life said, PTA. You don't want to go to the PTA meetings. You rather tweet about Trump and stuff. What do you have to think? What do you have to say about that? I think a lot of times just come down to this human psychology of laziness.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What is the saying? You said lip service. Another way to say that is talk is cheap. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and here let's read this. Salute brothers Ike Ogiamian and Dr. Thunder, just showing some support for the great content. That's Aizen Sama. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Thanks for your continued support.
Yes.
Always in the chat and always supporting. And yes, Young Swift, people are lazy, and we're born lazy. This is one of the this is one of these. I think it's an excuse people make by looking at certain people and saying, "Oh man, such and such is just so disciplined, just such a hard worker." You know, I've just never been that disciplined. I struggle with discipline. It's like, yeah, so does that other person that you're talking about. They struggle with discipline also. Everybody struggles with discipline. Um,
Mm-hmm.
everybody struggles with that. And this idea that there is some kind of personality trait or something that is the discipline personality. I don't know if it's a gene or something. I don't know what that is. I certainly have no idea of what that thing is. Discipline is something you have to work for, and often is the case that people are forced into discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I
Mm-hmm.
was,
Yes.
right?
The universe wants to find its lowest energy state. The rock wants to go downhill. The house wants to crumble down to the ground. Things want, the concentrated heat, that fire in that room. The heat
That's
wants to
right.
dissipate. Things want to
That's right.
chill. Okay.
That's right. That's right. You've seen a
Yeah.
baby. A baby is not disciplined. Okay? A baby cries for any reason, anytime there's any kind of discomfort, and only learns better from external stimuli.
Hmm.
Well, is
Hmm.
not getting that themselves. They are not. Yeah, people are lazy. That is the natural state of things. So discipline is something that is intentionally working against what is natural. What is natural is to be lazy.
Hmm.
Let me say that again. What is natural is to be lazy.
Hmm.
And so just simply pointing out people that were like, oh man, I admire such and such. They're so disciplined, as if to take the responsibility off of yourself to to do the same work,
Hmm.
to yourself become disciplined. And that thing that I said, people tend to be forced into being disciplined. I know that's my case, where there's a list of things that I wanted to accomplish in my life, and I recognized that if I didn't become disciplined, that I could just get rid of that stuff on the list. That stuff, none of that stuff's happening. It was, and I was drug reluctantly into that.
Hmm.
I didn't wake up one morning like, oh, I'm going to be so happy to do all of this stuff that's going to cause personal pain and turmoil. In many cases, going to cause me to question if I'm even doing the right things because this stuff is so hard. You know, I don't who does that, but
Yep.
you acquire the discipline as a means to an end. The end
Hmm.
is the goal,
Hmm.
right? So if
100%.
you want the
Yeah.
goal bad enough, um, uh, former pastor of mine, guy I worked with, it's my first full time job. Worked at a church as a band director and the pastor's assistant, and his name's Joel Brooks Jr. Great dude, um, real masculine dude. Uh, really, in his church, really focuses on men's issues. One of the kind of few
Hmm.
churches that are like that. But one thing that he would frequently say is that when the pain of staying the same is more or is greater than the pain of changing, then you'll change.
That's a
When the
good one. That's a
pain,
good one.
yeah, when the pain of staying the same is more than the pain of changing, then you'll change.
Discipline, systems, right?
Yep.
The continuity of this, or the necessity of it happening every day. It's not just a I woke up and then I turned on the discipline knob 10 years ago and things have been great. No, no. We were having a conversation on your channel, and go ahead and check out Dr. Thunder's channel. Go ahead and check out Eisen Sama's channel as well. Shout out to Eisen in the house. AIZENSAMA. Eisen Sama. Check out his channel. He does good work out there, barbershop talk every Sunday at least. So check out his channel. And before I read the super chats, just want to reiterate that, we were having a conversation on your channel, and then the video came out today, and I was talking about how I'm
Yeah.
going to stay up all night, right, working. It wasn't easy. I was like, I'm going to need a crutch. I didn't have to use it, by the way. So
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
yeah, it worked out. So the lemon and cayenne pepper and all that kind of stuff helped. So I'm sure you could tell that I still, because when you texted me early this morning, like early for me, you saw that I was still up. When you posted the video and all that kind of stuff. But no, it was
Yeah.
painful. Last night is painful. I'm still a little groggy today, and today I'm going to still have to push through some things as well. So it's never easy. Discipline is tough. So shout out to K Polymath in the house, coming
Yes,
through
yes,
with
yes.
the approximately $3-ish, $2.80 something cents, which is £2, blessing us with the foreign currency out there. Says talk is expensive. That's why I am super chatting. And reminds me of a line by Lil Wayne. Says 100,000 on my grill. Who said talk was cheap? I was like, not bad, Little Wayne, not bad. You want to address Snuggles there?
Yes, absolutely. Snuggles. I'm I'm super chatting because everybody else seems to want to come in my turf. You are better know. Oh, wait a minute. You are better know the rules when you get there.
Okay, and I think some shade is coming your way, Dr. Thunder. I think
All
this is
right.
for you. See, he says creativity is cheap, Dom DeMarco. I'm sure you're being accused of copying. They say, "Hey, Doctor Thunder, why don't you bust out your real trumpet and play it every time or something?" What's
Yeah.
thank you. K Polymath in the house, dropping some more pounds on us, having a good time with it. What's next? What's next here? I think that Snuggles did another one before.
And we have a big one coming too. The lead attorney's in here.
Let me see which one. I've gotten lost in the sauce of super chats here. I've gotten lost in the sauce. So let me go back. This one is the creativity is cheap, and then I will move on to the next from there. Okay. Snuggles, I
Thank you,
think, did another
Polymath.
one. Lead it. Well, let me go backwards then. I'm gonna go backwards. Okay. Address this one if you will.
All right. This is a test, only a test to see if the I keep moving around and stuff because I got the camera right in front of the screen so it doesn't look like I'm looking over the screen. So here, one second. Let me move something to make this there we go. That's gonna be better. All right. Okay, this is a test only test to see if the request from Nicer and Blind Guy, his wife, their life, and the chat crowd to get Dr. Thunder to blow a live horn on his choosing for super chats. This is a test. Um,
Maybe a little organ, maybe a little piano. Something, you don't have to bust out the woodwinds.
all right, I do have a keyboard here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. We'll go 5D.
I'll give you a little bit here. Let's see.
Nice resolution there
All
at the
right,
end.
there you
You did not leave us hanging. You resolved that. You did not give me a panic attack. uh, shout out to the lead attorney. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. Oh my God, it's applause and Dom DeMarcos and all kinds of salutations, greetings, good tidings, all that kind of good stuff. It's going crazy out here. It's going crazy. Thank you very much.
Oh, and because it's the lead attorney, so
Exactly. You got all the right sound effects, sir. So, and yeah, K Polymath, don't be coming for Dr. Thunder. He, he'll get his anyways. But thank you very much. Thank you very much, lead attorney. Want to read what he says there, sir?
yeah, he says salute to the brothers.
Yes,
And
salute to you. Salute
Yes,
to
and
you,
salute to
sir.
you. That's right.
If you
Thank
are
you,
not
sir.
subscribed to the lead attorney, go check him out. Okay. He is great at covering the topics from a point of view of information, from the point of view of logical arguments, and also from the point of view of entertainment. Okay. Or I mean, if you want visuals, he's got that clean white teeth, that smile. Okay. He killed the lady killer smile. He's got that. Plus, also like his pre-recorded videos are pretty good because he's got that look, I'm a performer in terms of, I know good stagecraft, and I think he's got it. He can talk nicely to the camera, and the information is there, logical arguments is there, everything is there. Go check out the lead attorney, ladies and gentlemen. So I think I said I was going to go up that way I don't miss other people's super chat. K
I
Polymath, what's
think
K
you
Polymath saying again?
So that's the same one. I think you actually have to go down.
I have to go down. I have to go down. I have to go down. So, so good. So Snuggles did not do another one. I was just
No,
confused.
I think Snuggles did do another one because yeah,
There it
there
is.
it is. I am keeping my eye on all you copycats. Are we all doing super chat wars today? Just let me know when you are all ready.
The super chat wars are definitely appreciated. You know,
Absolutely appreciated.
we definitely. And then K Polymath again. What is he saying this time?
He says the Leeds super chat deserves a freestyle.
The lead
Uh,
super chat deserves a freestyle. All right,
yeah,
you freestyled
yeah.
with the with the piano. That should be enough. That should be enough. Um, We're getting ish done. I'm here on the stand up table, not a fable, but a fact. I'm pulling out tracks from the. Yeah, you know, that's good enough. That's good enough. I rhyme table with fable. I talk about facts and pulling out tracks. I'm throwing out tracks from the Red Sea Scrolls coming. Anyways, if I had a beat, I would have continued, but I don't want to throw our rhythmless people out there like Snuggles off by the lack of I want to ease into this freestyling thing here. I want to give him too much, right? You know how it goes. You know how it goes. But all good. Now speaking of the law, though, that is another system, right? It's right there in the political realm, if you will. So let me
Yeah.
ask you, with regards to the law and its particular goal, because you always have systems and their goals, and they're always, a little bit at odds with each other. What do you
Mm.
think about the law and its goal, justice? Okay, sounds like the beginning of Socrates, Plato's Republic or something, right? So yes, that broad. What do you think? What do you think about the law and its goals, justice?
So one thing I want to make a distinction
Mhm.
um, between laws uh, in a democracy, or representative democracy, a republic, like ours, and laws in a dictatorship or in a monarchy where the laws emanate from the throne, right? So if the laws emanate from the throne, then the laws are not negotiable, right?
Mm,
He who sits on the throne decides.
mhm,
So there's no voting, there's no contacting your representative, there's none of that. There is just the law. In our form of
mhm,
government, I think frequently I've heard Christians cite Apostle Paul when he says uh, something to the effect of we should, follow the laws of the land, for there's no law that's not from God. This sort of idea. Now, yeah, that so if you're in a monarchy, if you're in a dictatorship,
mhm,
then there would be one interpretation of that,
mhm,
one possible interpretation.
mhm,
If you live in a republic, then there would definitely be another, because we get to decide what the laws are.
mhm,
Okay, so the laws in a republic, they in as a matter of speaking, they are grassroots. They go upwards.
mhm,
We decide what we want to be legal. We decide what we want to be illegal. There's this phrase that you hear people use frequently. Um, you know, what is it? Uh, something about morality in. what is it? Legalizing morality, not legalizing morality. What is it? What's the term I'm looking for? I can't think of this. I can't.
To legislate morality, you mean?
Yeah, yeah. There it is. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
That whole legislate morality thing. That's an interesting phrase. Since laws seem to be an outgrowth of a certain kind of morality, starting from maybe the Ten Commandments, and then you can find all of these laws that are sort of expressing those commandments in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a matter of speaking, the laws that we have are an outgrowth of some sort of morality. The reason that I am a free man, though I am a descendant of slaves, is because the laws changed. And people fought against the law, at least the interpretation of it that existed, found it to be unconstitutional. Right? So it's a different so it's a different sort of um, calculus
Let me ask
when
you a
you can
question.
go ahead.
How did the people come to that determination? In other words, what I'm saying is this: you have certain people whom have a historicity to their interpretation of human events. In other words, if
Right.
you're a Marxist, you say, due to the material dialectic, first you have this stage, then you have this stage, and then you're going to have this stage. You have also Hegelian kinds of dialectic, which are that Marxists copied it and materialized it. Hegelian has more of a spiritual dialectic, where everything starts with God and is moving towards God becoming himself or some kind of crazy thing that the Hegel type people say. But basically historicity, in other words, that there's stages and there's certain kinds of inevitabilities. There's a teleology, there's a directionality to things, right? As opposed to, well, people agitated for this and then this happened. So even within this space of the laws, you say, hey, people came to a determination that I should be free. Some would say, well, this is just a particular stage in the game. It's going to happen. Some would say, well, no, it would not happen unless certain things are done. There must be agency and so on and so forth. And some would say,
Mm.
perhaps, you people are saying the same thing. Any thoughts on that? Just that idea of teleology, directionality, historicity, things will moving in a particular pattern, right? First, if you have slaves, you're bound to free them at some point, whether or not what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're going to have to free the slaves eventually because they're probably going to outnumber you at some point, right?
Okay, so
Or
you do give some credence to certain natural flows of things, whether or
yeah,
not there's hmm hmm hmm.
yeah, yeah.
That is
I don't give people that much credit. I've learned that about many of my perspectives. It seems like the older I get, the less credit I give people for sort of doing things for the right reasons.
mm-hmm,
Even earlier, we were just talking about discipline, and the said acquisition of discipline doesn't seem to be a matter of choosing you know the noble thing, but more about survival. Well, I don't want to die, so let me let me get this thing together. That's pretty. It's kind of a it's sort of a low expectation. It's a really low threshold of expectation. Um, I I really do believe in people, though.
mm-hmm. um, okay. People and perhaps perhaps to give some kind of a synthesis or resolution to something that you're saying. I mean, people in aggregates are people in aggregate. You said that when they outnumber and then they get to a particular level where the pain, as you said, The pain of saying the same exceeds the pain of change. So now we have number, we have some power. It's not going to be as painful to agitate for this change. And then now we're going to make that change. So
Right.
whether it's people as individuals or people as an aggregate, it's still people, right? So I think that we can give that to the masses out
Let's
there. Go ahead.
let's talk about something that is happening. And I know you want to get to the super chat,
No problem.
but let's talk about something that's happening right now as a result of a lot of the racial strife.
Mm,
Um, so there's policies in curriculum changes that are happening in universities that are sort of stuff is changing right now because again the pain of staying the same or the risk of staying the same outweighs the pain, the turmoil of changing. If we don't change, then people are going to be looking at us like whatever, and then eventually that's not going to be a positive thing, and that's going to not serve, our what is it, um, enlightened and enlightened self interest.
mhm.
you know, it's not going to serve that at some point. So yeah, let's give them a little bit of what they want because that's probably going to be a better play for right now. You know, and and yes, that sounds very cynical. Um, but enough of this stuff happens throughout history, and you start to realize that this is the way that people are. Um, Generally, I mean, you know, every person is not necessarily that way, but in mass, I think so. And so, and again, most folks require external stimulus. Most folks are not internally motivated to do things. And I think once we acknowledge that that is true, then even considering the negative aspects of systems,
Mhm.
the the tendency towards corruption,
Mhm.
they are necessary because most people need the
Mhm.
structure.
Yes.
They need the structure. They must
Mhm.
have that structure. I mean, you're talking about chaos. Maybe something worse than chaos
Mhm.
would would occur without these systems.
Yes. So if you think about a system of billiard balls, if you will, there are some people that can jump off the land, right? This table, this flat table where you have these balls around, and they can hover above it. And they can kind of look down and be like, okay, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go over there. However, the majority of people, and the majority becomes very important because when we say people, when we talk about societies and so on and so forth, we are talking about the majority. It's not just about because these particular individuals, the unique ones, they're a different category of their own. They almost have a different history. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
it's a different thing going on. But the majority of people need the land to be tilled. They need the grooves to be made so that they can roll together in unison through the contours of the landscape. And guess what? In order to till the land, there's some violence that is needed. And violence need not be chopping off of heads. It's just an agitation. It's a force. Okay. And it may be to their own benefit. They may even be thanking you secretly that they thank you for forcing me to roll down this path, which is to my benefit after all. What do you have to say about because to the leveraging point? What do you have to say about what K Polymath says there? Showing a history. In other words, you have to leverage a history. You have to leverage a history of performance, collateral. Say, hey, this is my cash flow. I can bring in reliably from the market $50,000 a year for my product, my service, my software. So, hey, bank, this is why you should give me the money. Not because I'm a human being and I have a soul or the spark of God in me or whatever that other kind of thing is. It's, well, what's your track record? Well, any thoughts on what he has to say there?
Yes. Um, the history of work. The history of work. I have a 7-year-old,
Mm.
and his name is Moses. And
Speaking of laws, huh?
that's right. And frequently, my thing is, what, he's an only child and he's my best boy. Yes, he's my only, but he's also my best. And um, to his, maybe for his benefit, uh, his namesake, though it is lofty and maybe looms large and creates a great expectation on the kinds of things that maybe he will be able to accomplish during his life. He also does get to have a hooligan face. So, um, but anyhow, so he's 7, and so he will do something that is wrong. Tell a fib, do all the stuff that kids do, trying to check parameters, trying to see how far they can push the boundary. So he'll do something that is not, that he shouldn't do, lie about something, you know, whatever. And I'll catch him, I always catch him. I know what he's thinking. And he will frequently say, and I'll say after that, I was just about to allow you to do X, Y, and Z, something that he really wanted to do, play a video game or watch a show he wanted to watch, or, watch a Minecraft video or something. I was just about to let you do that. And then he'd say, yeah, but you didn't give me any chances, or, well, I'm acting right now. I'm calm now. Like maybe he's throwing a, tantrum or something. And I say, hey, that's not okay. You need to calm down. So then he'll get himself calm for about, 2 minutes. He says, look, I'm calm now. See, see, I deserve the thing now. I'm saying this because, a history of work and completion, that's something that takes a long time to establish that as a track record. It's not something that you can just say, well, look, I'm acting right now. Look, I have $100 in my hand right now. Look at me for who I am right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not how this thing works. You need a track record, and the track record is how you learn, how you can learn about the sort of character of a person. And of course, if a bank is thinking about giving you resources, anybody can come in and say, hey, I have really good intentions right now. For this whole day, man, I've been, I've turned a new leaf. I'm not wasting all my money anymore. I stopped, what? I'm not, I'm not, uh, you know, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not womanizing anymore. I'm on the straight path today. And, you can depend on me now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you can depend on me. And then if you don't get what you want, and then of course you're going to revert to whatever the behavior was. And then the tendency is going to be to blame the circumstance. Well, if I would have got the money, I would have been okay. But since I didn't get the money, see, that's why you have to see this bad behavior.
I see. I mean, I did a stream recently with Bernard called the tank versus the pipeline type of thing, and I think that's what. So you're saying if I have a tank, right? I come through with a tank of money, like, hey, here I have $100, I have $100,000, $200,000, right? Therefore, give me some credit. I'm going to leverage it. It tends not to be the case that means anything. You don't go to Shark Tank and say, hey, I got $2 million, therefore you should give me, you should invest in me. They're like, no. Where's the track record of sales, right?
That's right.
where is your ability to pull money out of the marketplace, right?
That's
Because
right.
that's the important thing. It's not the tank, it's the pipeline. It's your ability to take money out of people's pockets. And they don't care where the money is going. They
That's
never
right.
ask the entrepreneur, how much did you save? They're like, I don't care. It's like, you're telling me that you can consistently out of the market pull out $100,000 out of people's pockets. They willingly give you this. That's the value. I don't care
There it is.
how the tank that you have stacked or whatever. Anyone that has a question and so on and so forth, please come in and hit the link. We got Mr. K Polymath in the house. What you got for us, sir? I think you've been super chatting. You've been super chatting quite generously, and we appreciate it. So go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, what's up? What's up, Manosphere? What's up, everyone? I'd like
He's
to
back,
say,
people. He's back.
yeah,
This is Noir himself. I think he's been creeping in back slowly. He got kicked out of the Manosphere by Bernard Riley, and then he went into the Lead Attorney's channel. Right, that was his first. I saw you there. You've been on Obsidian too, but went to the Lead Attorney's channel. You took your big brain there, where big brain things are appreciated, and you're ingratiating yourself slowly back in. Well, go ahead, sir.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. For not allowing me, for having me, because obviously I've shown my track record, as you've seen with the super chats, right? This was all part of the whole discussion. But that given, I would like to say thank you, both brothers. Actually, both of you kind of touched into something that I thought was interesting. So, most of us have seen the leftists, the things that they desire. They might create a program and say, okay, we need more representation of Black people in certain kind of things. And then they will say that the Western, whatever education system is racist. Now, if they actually understood a little bit deeper, they could actually make a point that's poignant. For example, we have a lot of intelligent brothers and sisters, right, who could help replace some of these programs. For example, Thomas Sowell could be a very good economics sort of study. Or we have great writers as well. We have great poets in the form of rap and other musical types. And I don't mean it in a very sort of just hip hop in the cultural aspect. I'm talking about words, rhythm, understandings, having, let's say, different types of rhyming styles, skipping over different lines, and inculcating certain levels of creativity. There are a lot of creative, intelligent people that we could use. Why is it that they don't ever actually make the argument like this? Because it is not so difficult to find intelligent brothers and sisters who could actually justify their argument, which is that there are many of us who could add that extra perspective. Why is it that they don't make that argument? They make rather unbelievable statements like the Western something is racist, sexist, and then they give us alternatives of basically people that don't actually make sense. So what's going on here?
Yeah, I think for this, I think I got to go 5D.
Let's go.
Okay, let's do
I got to
this.
go 5D for this one. Yeah, this is something that I notice quite frequently. It's something I'm very much frustrated by. There are good arguments that they could make. They don't make those arguments because they're not really interested in solving the problem. So, for instance, frequently there is this sentiment or outright statement that these universities struggle finding Black folks that have the adequate credentials to fill faculty positions. Now, I'm in music, and in particular, I'm in jazz. And there are so many brothers with at least master's degrees that are uber talented, both as educators, as performers, and then also have ridiculous performance experience that would far outweigh any of their white counterparts. And they never get invited. Right? This is happening all the time. I know so many smart, capable brothers. It's ridiculous how many of them that I know. And so whenever they start talking that way, they start going down, oh, it's a systemic racism, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you're in control of the system. You could change this anytime you want to. For the fact that it still remains the way that it is, given the political bias and leaning of faculty members that control the system, that they don't really want to solve the problem.
Okay, so you've kind of you laid out the landscape. Maybe you gave us some coordinates there. You said, okay, they don't want to solve the problem. You gave us an example. You say it is indeed the case that these people agitating for social justice are in control of these systems, but they still, to buttress the point that K Polymath made, that they don't bring in people whom are talented. Perhaps because, let's say, they need to fit a political mold. Maybe I'm going a step beyond what you've said now, because you just said they don't want to solve the problem. Now I'm saying, well, what do they want, right? It seems to be the case that they want power. It seems to be the case that maybe this particular kind of agitation and the victim mode, the particular kind of chaos that they like is amenable to their control, right? They want a particular kind of fomenting of things because they know that that gives them power, right? Or it could just, and also, we're not going to bring you in unless you're with this program. It's not that we're looking for qualified people. We're looking for people whom fit our program.
Un momento, por favor.
Go ahead.
¿Tú hablas español?
Poquito.
Right. Okay. So this is an interesting point, Dr. Thunder. And, it's interesting to note that you actually literally went 5D with your camera changes over there. I saw that. That was a pretty interesting thing to observe. Right. So if they don't want to actually have a solution, then are we pawns in a chess game? Because if that's the case, then it seems as though there's at least 3 different layers that I've kind of figured out in my mind as you were talking. There is the political elite, which appear to be Black. There is also the leftist elite who want to somehow destroy the current system. And then there is us, the so-called talented people. So it seems like there's 3 layers of, obviously, and then there's the average person as well. So it's 4 different layers. So it seems as though those who want to destroy the system and create it in their own fashion use the political elite of Blacks in order to champion this rhetoric, instead of actually skipping over to the talented brothers who do have the work. Again, like you said, I've seen these people. When I got onto my program in my PhD, the interesting thing I noticed is I was like, for some reason, I thought that I would find intelligent people, that somehow these people were somewhat levels beyond, or they were just average people. These so-called Wazungus were just average people. Okay, I know they're not actually average, right? Obviously, but there was nothing special. There was no light or fire glazing over them. There wasn't 2 screens with a 5-dimensional view when they speak, when they go to Dr. Thunder mode in them. It was just, they were just people. So why is it that we're allowing this game to be played on us? The ones who are average / the talented brothers.
Let me, Dr. Thunder, I'm not going to answer the question. I'm just going to highlight the fact that you did mention that people need to be cajoled. I said that the ground needs to be tilled, contoured in such a way that certain balls flow in certain directions. And hence the question, which perhaps is a rhetorical question of whom is a pawn and so on and so forth, is an apt one. And it is true, yes, because you did acknowledge that, yes, systems need to be built, to herd the sheep in particular directions. I just wanted to point out that fact. And then you can go ahead and respond to what Mr. Polymath said.
I'm more and more, I'm realizing that timing is more important than substance. So it's, you want to think that people are going to do the right thing because it is made totally clear and there's so much evidence to suggest that this thing is correct and right. But if you look throughout history, it wasn't just a matter of proving that something was right. It was also a matter of, and actually I think maybe more important, the timing of deploying whatever that right thing was. And
It's not just a matter of truth, it's a matter of timing and deployment. Okay, go ahead.
yeah. And so, yeah, and that comes across to me as being a very feminine sort of quality.
Let me stop you there.
Hmm.
Whether it's feminine or not, because I noticed you did not push back on his layering, where he said some people want to change the system, remake it in their image. They bypass the actual quote unquote talented. They go to another layer of people that they can manipulate in, political elites, so on and so forth, in order to get the outcomes that they want. And then you, me, and K Polymath, we sit and we talk about this. And perhaps I'm pushing back now, and I'll say, rather than say, "Oh, that's so silly," they don't have the truth or they don't have the real stoical approach to things. How about you, Dr. Thunder, become the philosopher king of your own domain? And you, if this is truly the case that it is all a chess game, there will forever be pawns, there will forever be people who need to be shepherded, and so on and so forth, then why don't you take the reins with your cohort of people that you can organize? Why not?
Well, I think in a matter of speaking, I think maybe I am doing that.
Okay.
Maybe not having specifically stated that as my agenda, or my mission rather. But maybe I am doing that. You know, when I said feminine, I don't necessarily mean that as a negative thing. I think I see it as more of an approach kind of thing.
Indirect.
So for instance, I know in my conversations with my wife, for instance, it's not just a matter of what I say and the evidence that I have to support it. Often is the case that the timing of discussing it is actually more important. And if she's in the right frame of mind, it seems like I can sell her pretty much anything within reason. And I think the way that we would like it to be is that if you can show that something is true and then therefore better than something that is existing, that's already in place, then everyone will in lockstep start walking towards that thing that is true because we have shown that it's true. What else do you need? Right? So I think that the timing thing, especially for with systems, because you have so much stuff on so much other stuff, and so I think there's this sort of, do you? It's cumbersome. It's going to take a lot of effort to make these kinds of changes.
What do you have to say, Mr. K Polymath? Your question, if I recall, the last sentence there was, why do we, quote unquote, we allow, and so on. So go ahead.
No, it's Mr. Lightning said a few things. I can see its mission statement is leveling up in 4K. So
5D,
5D, yeah, hidden in plain sight. or hidden in 5-dimensional sites.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So yeah, he said something interesting actually. First, when he mentioned that there's something to do with the strategy being feminine. This reminds me of a conversation that was had last week that I listened into, where Mr. Ike, Mr. Ogiamen, you mentioned something about Nietzsche introducing the concept of truth as if truth was a woman, and that we were interacting with the truth as a as if truth was just like us, something that could be coerced with logic. But instead, truth is actually more as a feminine aspect, where you must use more feminine coercion to actually get things. So yeah, that kind of came into my mind when Dr. Lightning mentioned that. So it kind of does seem that there's different types of power that exist, and it's tangible, because people might say that perhaps men are stronger, men have more power, but that's not true. Because if women understand their position in a system, because the system is real, although it's created, it is real. When people say, this is social construct, doesn't matter if it's social construct. The fact is, it's a construction, so it exists. So if, I guess, as men, we stop feeling dirty about thinking strategically in a way that feels wrong, because I think to us it feels like it's a form of manipulation, just like propaganda. And that is, I think, one thing that disallows us from following that path of power, because maybe we feel it will corrupt us, so we don't go down that path of corruption. We feel that we have to do things the right way, which is through reason, logic, and understanding. And then just to go back to Dr. Lightning's point is, and I've mentioned this before, but in the UK, there is a school, and everyone can check this out. It's called the Michaela Academy. The woman is of Indo-Afro or Afro-Indo Caribbean descent. And she said, I'm going to focus in London. I live in London for now. I'm being in America soon. And she said, I'm going to build a school for these Black kids from the poorest areas with single parents, and in a region where only about 30% kids even graduate from so-called high school. Guess what? Just 5 years since the school started, this is performing in the top 5% in the nation. And these aren't different kids, it's the same kids. All she did was just give teachers power to teach, and basically introduce just teaching mechanisms. No extra money, nothing extra. She fixed the problem. But people were touting on the media saying, too strict, somehow these kids will fail at university, or they're not being equipped with creativity, and all these sorts of really pointless arguments. Yet I actually believe that some people fell for it. At least they fell for it in the sense that they refused to engage with her, which is very interesting.
So a couple of things, and if you don't mind, because I believe you have a wrench, you super chatted your way into getting your wrench back and keeping your wrench. If you could put the link to the Michaela Academy, that would be helpful. And before Dr. Thunder gets a chance to respond to the particulars of what you said, I wanted to touch on the Nietzsche thing, which is basically, there is a kind of a truth supremacist attitude that we have. However, we know that we cannot know the truth. In our conversation yesterday, Dr. Thunder, on your channel, we talked about, let's say, God, ultimate truth, right? And we said, okay, we're not going to know that, right? And then Nietzsche points out that what is the value of this so-called truth when our life depends a lot on a lot of falsification? And he's not saying falsification even for bad things. He means like, you draw a map, or you have some kind of a model of the stars as being inside, these concentric crystalline shells for navigation. Is it true? No, but it helps you navigate. Okay. And our life is filled with these kinds of approximations, effective truths. In other words, perspectival things that serve our end as living organisms. And why would we be, quote unquote, talking about this kind of truth out there, outside what our two eyes see, what our guts want, and what we can best approximate in order to navigate the world, which we are even smart enough to know that a lot of times it's a falsification of the world. So why would we there still be like, oh, but the truth, But the whole time we know that error and falsification is what serves life for the most part. So I wanted to say that. And if Mr. K. Polymath, I believe you left the Yes, you put the Google link on the chat there, and then Dr. Polymath, not Dr. Polymath, but Dr. Thunder or Mr. Lightning or whatever. If you don't mind responding, yeah.
Um, you could call me the God of Thunder. That's fine too.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's to talk about education for a bit. The constant refrain is that the schools, these schools that don't perform well, are not receiving adequate funding. That arts programs are being shrunk. That in many districts, even football and other sports activities, now students have to pay for them. And that is why there's such a low level of performance. Now, there's lots of ways to fix that. Money is not the way to fix it. And I think that Polymath, I think the example he gave is a good example of this. One thing that would work, and this is an example of something that Black folks tend to vote against, but would actually be very positive for us, is this sort of idea of schools of choice, where as long as you can get your kid to whatever district, then the tax dollars will follow the student to that other district. And that would almost overnight solve many of the horrific sort of behavior issues that students that are motivated to learn have to put up with. Also puts them in a district where the teachers are going to be more effective because they're going to have less behavior issues to deal with. So that would almost solve that issue like overnight. But that's something that the Democrats are always against that. And Black folks tend to vote for that. But if you isolate Black folks and you ask them these questions, they would say, of course, on an individual basis, they would say, of course I would choose that. Of course I would choose that. So I think that's an interesting point, appropriate in the education context. I don't really have anything else to say with what was saying, other than to say this idea of treating truth like a woman, like in a feminine sense, that does seem to correspond with what it was I was suggesting about the timing, the specifics of timing, and how, timing is like, some people will say timing is everything. Right? Now, I don't know if it's everything, but I will say, again, the older I get and the more stuff I see, the more I realize that all of these critical events that have happened in history that have really pushed us forward, it wasn't just an issue of the technology. It wasn't just an issue of the knowledge or the truth or whatever. It also was an issue of, it was the timing of it and the deployment of things. So,
timing, now we know what you mean by timing.
Yeah.
However, just to kind of say that when someone invokes timing, motion comes into mind. There are parts and pieces to this. There are the people who need to do X. There are the people whom are opposing. There is the landscape of economic systems, technological systems, so on and so forth. And then these things are moving, and then they take a particular shape, right? At a particular time, right? That is most amenable. Like it's almost like where now the Kindle is just right. You can just throw that match in there.
That's right.
You could tip it a little bit, and then boom. However, to K Polymath's point, I'm going to direct it to K Polymath now. Like, it does take a certain kind of mind to be able to, number one, even abstract the notion of, okay, well, the things need to be done in a certain kind of timing. What are the particular parts and the parameters, and what shape should they be taking? How can I leverage things, and so on and so forth. So that's one thing I'm pushing. I'm going back to K Polymath. Perhaps he could reiterate his point of perhaps why don't people that can see this kind of situation take more power, take more of an active action. And then I want to also say to Mr. Polymath and to the panel, generally speaking, that is it the case that we must pass through this phase? Let's say this phase right now of where you have books such as White Fragility and
Oh,
things
goodness.
that someone like me would perhaps call an exploitation of the victim, the noble victim narrative. Now, look, the noble victim narrative is something that can happen to everybody. It's not so, oh, this is special. You're trying to say black people. It doesn't have anything to do with black, white, whatever. It feels good to be a victim because you get paid attention to, you get deferred to. Who doesn't want to be listened to, right?
The
Who doesn't want
squeaky
to take
wheel gets the grease.
Exactly. And it's beyond grease. Well, not beyond grease. The kind of grease is multifarious. It's manifold. It's not just, oh, I give you money. It's attention, validation, esteem, all that kind of stuff. Nobility, right? The noble victim thing. So you have people that are forcing this noble. It's almost like you're giving this person this drug, right? And it's called the noble victim drug. And they're taking it. And you keep giving it to them, okay, and so on and so forth. Some of us will be like, "Oh, this is bad." But now, in terms of, because, and this also hinges on the conversation that I had with you, Dr. Thunder, yesterday, about sometimes you need to integrate certain things, okay, either in yourself that, okay, let's not just chastise it. Let's perhaps look at it, integrate it, absorb it. Or in the time realm, is it the case that we must go through this phase in other words, can you hop over this phase to get to real justice? Because justice is needed, right?
Yeah, everyone has to have a hoe phase.
Okay. Well, I guess that puts it all to rest. But K Polymath, what is your retort, or what do you have to say about this kind of a phasing thing where it's like, okay, well, sure, they're doing this thing now, but and you may be agitating against it, but maybe you should integrate it in yourself and also accept the fact that it is a necessary stage, perhaps, to get to the next stage.
Right. Okay. So I actually have quite a few things to say on this, but first, I noticed a fire. Is it because of Prometheus? And what was the story of the person that gave knowledge to the man of fire? What was the name?
Prometheus. Prometheus Engineering is the name of my company. I do like Prometheus. Prometheus was tortured, right? K Polymath for doing what he did, coming with the fire of knowledge and giving it to man. I like that story. My engineering company is called Prometheus Engineering. I also have an engineering channel here, Prometheus Engineering University, where I break things down all the way down to the nitty-gritty for those engineering students out there who want to get things on a very intuitive level. I start from intuition, and then I go into the pictures, and then I go into the algebra, and so on and so forth. And then I tell you, well, this is the equation. That equation that you saw, you see, I'm giving them the knowledge. Get the idea.
So that's why the fire is there, right?
This is the flame of Prometheus.
Yeah,
that's what
I.
The flame of Prometheus.
Interesting. Yeah, it just came to my mind right now. I was like, yeah. So, So coming back to the question, if I'm to use my intuition and try to actually respond to that question, the best way that I can in this time is, it feels, and yes, I said feel, it feels like we are in a game of chess. And I'm talking about Dr. Lightning's chess game of 5D movements. And it feels like there are those who are more developed in a psychological aspects of themselves. They understand more about nature. They see more, they perceive more, and they're playing the game. Now, those of us here who think we're queens, so those of us who are talented, but we're still not close to what's really happening, because there's also the hand, and then the brain, and then the two brains that are fighting each other. And it seems as though the rest of us are actually just being used in this game. So if that's the case, it's hard to think of notions of things like justice and then it makes you think, is it just us? And I don't want to steal from Michael Jackson, but it's difficult because let's talk about like the Vikings. The Vikings did a lot of bad things to the British, basically raped, pillaged, and did all sorts of things.
Eat hard.
Right. The Slavs, the term slave comes from obviously the Slavs who were sold and into. In fact, why do you think the modern Arabians look the way they do right now in more of a palish color? It's because they married a lot of their slaves, and purposely in order to do that. The Yemenis didn't quite go that direction. The point I'm making here is, why is it that we've allowed ourselves to be pimped of our emotions? We've been given the power of being able to be the noble victim, but that itself also removes the power from us in order to actually free ourselves. But it is enough just to keep us entrenched in that moment. And it reminds me of the blame mechanics. So I call it blame mechanics. It's when, imagine there's a situation where someone did something bad to you. Let's say you have been unduly killed because you went to the wrong place in the country. But people will focus on the fact that they shouldn't have killed you. But you're thinking to yourself, well, what if I don't go to that place? Yes, it is wrong that they shouldn't kill me. But what if I want to live? Why don't I just not go there until I have enough power to survive that moment? So it's almost like they've given us that little power of, well, you can be the noble victim. But they've then obviously used it to control us, and it's kind of interesting how we've allowed this to continue.
That we there. Go ahead, Dr. Thunder. There is a we there that allows, and one thing, and perhaps you can say what your reaction, Dr. Thunder, because we like to keep these short. I think we're gonna have to go another leveraging the system because we didn't get into. We were gonna talk about some legal systems, maybe some financial systems, so on and so forth. But I think we've begun to talk about the legal system. Then we stayed with the law, and then we kind of expanded upon it into this area of justice, if you will, which we're still here now. Something that comes to mind. Shout out to Jonathan Barronville, Ike, the soulless, fragile albino. Yes. That maybe that's a. I am known by that moniker in certain parts. Apparently. So he came in. That's my herald right there. When you sound like this, K Polymath, do you get the pushback sometimes from people who, let's say, they understand what you're saying, but they're like, are you telling me that there really is a hand that moves queens around and there really is a brain fighting another brain? Who are these people? Or is it a metaphysical, impersonal, if you will, movement of history, if you will, some kind of Hegelian magic, invisible hand, if you will, all these metaphors and so on and so forth? Or is there some person?
It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Lightning.
Yeah. So the phrase, it's not checkers, it's chess, right? So this sort of Wizard of Oz, somebody hand behind the screen, okay, so say if it is God that is controlling this whole thing. I don't want to get too religious or anything, but say if it's God, then I would say that would elevate the timing component of it. So for instance, if God is in control of what's happening, then the critical people that created technologies that advanced us in certain periods of time, maybe it's less of an issue. Maybe it's less of a matter of those individuals being smart enough to see when the proper timing was, and more just sort of baked in the cake. They were who they were, and they saw things how they saw them, and it just happened to uh,
Right place,
it
right
just
time, as they
happened
say.
to right. It just happened to be the right time, right? And so, and maybe that's an issue of, maybe we would look at this from another perspective and call that risk or chance. But it's an interesting sort of thought there. So, in one sense, what it is that what it is that we bring to the table, so to speak, is of critical importance. It's still important, but maybe the timing of it is what's being monkeyed around with.
Interesting. Go ahead, K Polymath. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Actually, there's several different things I would go in that question, and I can't obviously do it all in this moment. As you said, timing is important. But I would do want to add to that actually. So let's take the God aspect, and by God, I guess we can use a different word for it. Predetermined aspect. So
I see.
yeah, so it feels, and I use that word again, second time I'm using this word in my life probably, but it feels that humans, like most things in this world, so we're made of, electromagnetic things. That's what God created us with. And it seems that we are basically predicated by different energy states. So let's say the mob, we all know what this is, mob justice. In Nigeria, if a man is found stealing, an old lady's savings in certain areas, in some villages, he may be deleted from that village, right? And quite harshly deleted. Now, what happens, what goes through the mob is that they are filled with a certain level of disharmony with their energy states. A lot of the woo people, the new age people, use words like energy, frequency, and all these things, but they're not quite wrong about the terminologies. Maybe they don't understand it fully, but they're not wrong. These people are filled with something that they cannot actually control. It fills them enough to act in a certain way, almost like a wave, like in music. When you're singing a song, when you're playing a piano, notice how Dr. Thunder had to resolve that those keynotes at the end. It just felt right. It needed to be resolved. So in a similar way, I see humans like this. We're all playing in a dance, a wave. I play this note. The next note feels like it should be played there, because if it's not, because I believe there's allowable states. So let's use music as an example. You have the seven notes, the seven different, I believe, yeah, it is notes, I guess. And if you play the wrong note at the wrong time, it won't feel nice, and then it won't work. So that's when you use logic to try to solve a problem that actually needs caressing, or the wrong timing. Then when you actually play the right note, even if you feel though it actually fits, and then the next note fits in, and then you play the music with the allowable states, and then sometimes you get geniuses, or people like MLK, or Buddha, or Dr. Thunder, or Ike come in, and they can actually play the wrong keys, but because they understand that the wrong keys can play and fit in a certain way, these are called modulations. They can modulate and change the course of events to their choosing, but because they understand the system. So it's pretty interesting.
I think there's an opportunity here. So these that resolution that I did at the end was 5-1. That's the cadence. And a cadence is what all functional harmony is dependent on. It's all aiming towards that. It requires that. All progressions, chord progressions, are seen as being, cadential or prelong, or they're only justified in their existence so long as they are prolonging the inevitable cadence, right? And so we have been conditioned. Now, you use the term precondition, but we have been conditioned to hear a certain way and to expect cadences to occur and to desire them because of the conditioning. So, how much of this so-called timing in recognizing when the timing is appropriate to do things is conditioned based on historical events, conditioned based on all kinds of all kinds of other factors. How much of that stuff is conditioned, and then how much of it is innate? Because I would argue that the things that seemed right to play when I was playing, all of that was and it was improvised. I was just playing, but it was all conditioned. They were all conditioned responses, and I knew at the end I needed to resolve that because of the conditioned, because the expectation that what it was that I was playing was causing, based on everyone's conditioning to expect that, right? A skillful composer can do that, right? And they can stretch it on longer and longer. And it's like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And then when it happens, it's this like profound moment, because we all expect this tension resolution moment to happen. But who's to say what is tension and who's to say what is resolution?
Well,
and yeah.
I
But we are out of time. But yeah,
yeah, I think that's a good. I don't know, K Polymath and Dr. Thunder. That sounds like a good place to end it there. Who's to say what is tension? Who's to say what is resolution? Who's to say that I cannot modulate and so on and so forth? This creativity aspect that you brought in, also tying into those whom can at least see and know the lay of the land, the way the systems work. Many things have been discussed here today, all within the realm of justice in this system that we are discussing. I think we went a little deeper in this particular one, that it's more than getting ish done this time. I think, I don't know, Dr. Thunder, I think we slipped into our natural states.
nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. So, K Polymath, any last words? And then Dr. Thunder, and then we'll wrap this up.
Nay, in the great words of Thunder, let's leave it unresolved.
Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will go ahead and end it there. Thank you again, Jonathan Barronville. Thank you to the winner of the Cash App, not the Cash App, but the Super Chatting competition, Mr. Lead Attorney. Check out his channel if you guys are not subscribed. Check out Sir Ism's channel as well. He left me a Cash App randomly the other day. It's like, I think he saw me on Ramil's panel and he just threw me a Cash App. But I'm not even in the panel. I was in the chat. I was just in the chat and he gave me a Cash App. I don't even know why. So that was nice. That was generous. So thanks to everyone else. Thanks to Snuggles. Thanks to K Polymath. Thanks to Blind Guy, his wife, their life, John Guillory, all the usuals, Nicer, the mods, the sponsors of the show, if you will. Shout out to Young Swift, INTJ gang in the house, always representing. And until next time, I'm going to go ahead and play this little beat that we have here for a little bit to take us out, ladies and gentlemen. And I will be doing a show on Thursday. And then over in the weekend, Dr. Thunder, you want to give it a little teaser about perhaps what we may be doing over the weekend?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. So probably most of you know that Donovan Sharp's conference, the Conference of Masculine Excellence, is happening in Las Vegas this weekend. It's June 4th through the 6th, and I'll be going. Ike is going, and another frequent collaborator of mine, Dr. Doug Pierce, will be going. Ike and I on this channel, we'll be doing some kind of a live stream at some point on one of those days. That'll be a little bit of a impromptu. We'll figure it out, and then I'm also going to do a live stream on my channel with the three of us at some point. Just kind of a couple streams from the CME. It's a first time event. This is really first rate. Donovan really, he's really getting it in. So we're excited to head out, and like I said, we'll be broadcasting from the conference.
100%, 100%. And we're gonna go out. As a matter of fact, I just decided right here on the whim not to play the outro music, and we will see you next time, ladies and gentlemen.